Next time, bring the evidence. All you do, you come here on corruption. Just here. Next time you come here, bring your stuff. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about you in 2024, December, saying there's corruption. Bring it.
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their right. I'm right. The right that someone has. All our rights exist in context.
We have a second medical opinion.
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
A very, very pleasant Emancipation holiday to you. If you're from this part of the world, this is the most important calendar in civilization. That's for us. Other countries may have their important calendar, but the emancipation of the slaves is, for our part of the world, the most important calendar day. Slavery has no parallel in the descent of human civilization. You are vulgarizing your mind if you're from this part of the world and you think there is some other nasty or some other anti-human act in the history of civilization that surpasses slavery. Nothing could surpass or be comparable with slavery. And please free your mind. If you're from the Caribbean, if you're from Brazil or United States and you are Afro-Brazilian or Afro-American, there is nothing that was more degrading than slavery. For us here in the Caribbean, this is the most important calendar day. For me, who entered university as a historian and got my first degree as a historian, nothing could be compared to the anti-human descent of slavery by the Europeans. So let us solemnly observe this day. Let us observe it while we enjoy it. Here to discuss the African existence in Guyana on this day are two very well-known Guyanese. Ruel Johnson was the cultural advisor to the APNU AFC government. He is currently technical assistant or / technical advisor in the Ministry of Youth, Culture and Sports. And then the man who needs no introduction because he has a license to roam all over Guyana, James Bond. We go alphabetically, and I want to pose the same question to Ruel that I will now pose to James Bond. Before I do that, Ruel was here this week on the program, and we asked him for his thoughts and his analysis of an African Guyanese being called a soup drinker because they go over to the government. And he gave a very interesting interpretation. He used the word transactional. That he said how African leaders see Guyanese people. Transactional, that's the term we use. And we'll ask James Bond not to forget or to remind you that Vincent Alexander said when James Bond announced his departure from the PNC and his entry into the PPP, he was suffering from post-slavery syndrome. Okay. Without further ado, 007 James Bond.
Thank you, Uncle Freddie, for being on your program for the second
Up to time. There are seven of you or 8 of you that can call this program anytime and say, I'd like to be in this program. I have something to enunciate, and your entry is automatic.
Yeah. As a proud Afro-Guyanese, it gives me great pleasure to see the opportunities available to Afro-Guyanese, especially young Afro-Guyanese. It is something that I got into politics in 2010 to actually see young Guyanese thrive, represented, make their mark on the political, social, economic landscape of the country. And at this juncture in our history, I see the wide range of opportunities available. For example, I could say right up off the bat is the number of Gold Scholars. Most are Afro-Guyanese. The number of persons who got house lots, most are Afro-Guyanese. Number of persons who were trained by BIT, the majority is Afro-Guyanese.
What's BIT?
Board of Industrial Training.
Yeah. In Wilford Avenue.
The majority is Afro-Guyanese. In Region 4, where you had a few contractors, a few entrepreneurs, now it's burgeoned it's grown to almost 3,000 contractors here in Region 4 alone. And again, the majority is Afro-Guyanese. Linden itself just had about 10 to 17 billion. I think it's $10 billion, if I be correct. $10 billion just invested in 5 years, invested into Linden, into Region 10, sorry. And again, that's a predominantly Afro-Guyanese community. In terms of agriculture, the president has an initiative in which he affords young people across the country, it's called the President Initiative, to engage in farming, whether it's shade house, whether it's town housing. And again, Afro-Guyanese are numbered amongst that lot. Training for teachers, majority again, Afro-Guyanese. Training for nurses in nurses program, and nurse aid program, predominantly Afro-Guyanese, more Afro-Guyanese trained. Look at again the police force, the number of officers, persons promoted and trained, again, predominantly Afro-Guyanese. So this government has shown and proven itself, and this is my message on the campaign trail. We must not choose who lead us simply because they look like us. We choose who lead us, who are willing to give us what we need when we need it. And I think that is particularly the vision of President Muhammad Irfan Ali, is that every promise he's made to young people, to young Afro-Guyanese, he's fulfilled it. And if I may just touch on some communities, for example, in Melanie, every single road has been done, work has been done in the play area. Melanie had like one contractor, probably zero. There was zero. I didn't know of any contractors doing roads and bridges and buildings. I didn't know of any in Melanie at the time when I got into business in the community. Now we have just young entrepreneurs alone is about 17. Other contractors, major contractors doing buildings and roads, number about 10. So that is about 27 just from Melanie alone. You could put your pot on fire that they could do your roads, they could do a fence, they could work on your play field, whatever. And that is again because of the vision of President Ali. Our nursery school play space, and I must say kudos to the First Lady, Her Excellency Ari Ali. We have one of those modern play spaces that you see advertised for other communities. That's in Melanie Damishana. And that's, if persons don't know Melanie Damishana, that community is a self-help community under the PNC that is named after the daughter of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, the first executive president of Guyana. In terms of agriculture, the president also committed to the 400 townhouses to the farmers in the catchment area of Melanie, Dazel, and Paradise and Beirut. That organization is currently being formed, who would benefit from about 40,000 birds as a result of, again, the vision of His Excellency President Ali. Let's look at Ansgrove. Ansgrove had an issue with land titling. And one of the things that is important to Afro-Guyanese is land. We hear a lot of talk years ago. I think there was a commission of inquiry into land rights or ancestral rights. Mm-hmm. So land is equally important to us because Washington, we bought Victoria for about $50,000 back in those days. It was like $100-something million now. And that is monies accumulated during 1834 and 1838. That's the days of apprenticeship. We could have bought Victoria and Buxton and all these communities. Afro-Guyanese bought these villages. So what happened in Ansgrove is that there was an issue with titling going back for decades. The coalition government turned a blind ear to it, turned a blind ear and a blind eye and a deaf ear to it. And today, residents of Ansgrove have been given their titles by the Honorable Attorney General, Senior Counsel, Minister of Legal Affairs, and Land Law. So we've seen the empowerment of Afro-Guyanese. Again, in terms of land, let me just shift off quick. Let me shift because I know Ruel got to jump in. But in terms of, again, land, we had on Ogle there, they like to say, oh, Afro-Guyanese have not been given prime lands. Mm-hmm. But along Ogle, where we see all those housing developments, the primest lands in Ghana right now, and the heroes, the Ogle to Eccles, that area there, Ogle to Eccles Highway, the prime lands, that has been afforded to Afro-Guyanese. The Black Entrepreneurial Network have gotten about 30 acres there, and a number of other Afro-Guyanese have been able to get land there as well. So we have seen a government that did not flinch when it came to assisting, promoting, and advancing the cause of Afro-Guyanese. One of the things that I love about President Ali is that he could represent me when it comes to reparations. I'm a firm believer of reparations. And if you heard, I look at that clip every now and then, of how he stood up for Afro-Guyanese and other Africans of the diaspora on the issue of reparations, in saying that we deserve reparations because it was our blood, sweat, and tears that built Europe and built France and built these other countries. So kudos to this administration. I think we were in a good place, we're in a great place on the 1st of August. And just now, in a few hours, we'll be having toll-free access to all three bridges at Linden, at Rusignol, and the Denver Harbor Bridge, again, which will benefit all Guyanese, including Afro-Guyanese. Okay.
Well, the theory of the transactional man.
Well, thank you for the the encyclopedic rundown of was available, and but to get to what I was saying, one of the things, and I'm glad you brought it up back for this show, is that first of all, let me say, going into Emancipation Month, what I would very much like to see is an honest assessment of the state of Afro-Guyanese in Ghana, using as much empirical data as possible, and James, you seem to have provided some there. And then we go to these very critical issues. For me, it's interesting that and important that in these elections you have this lead up to Emancipation Month into the elections on September 1st. And slavery was built upon, Freddie, you dealt with it just now. Why slavery was worse than most, and almost everything else in history. And I would say even direct genocide. Is in genocide, there's a dehumanization that is based upon a concept of an enemy. Right? You kill these people because they're an enemy. And you want to wipe them off the face of the earth. That's terrible. But in slavery, there was the reduction of human beings to this transactional, to chattel, which is worse than an enemy. You're no property. And I think one of the things that in the month coming up that Ghana as a whole, but particularly the Afro-Guyanese community, has to consider is that when it comes to politics, and this is increasingly the consideration of who gets what. This definition of politics. When you see people joining any political party, let's start with that, and particularly Afro-Guyanese, what are the things that pull them to the party, and what are the things that repel them from others? And when I say the transaction, that is sort of, and not Afro-Guyanese leadership, we need to separate Afro-Guyanese leadership from people who purport to be, or who claim to be Afro-Guyanese leadership, and who have occupied a certain space. And the point I was making is that the people who claim and purport to represent Afro-Guyanese interests essentially see Afro-Guyanese in the very same transactional terms that has been descended from slavery, going on to 200 years after slavery has been. So when it is that James goes over to the PPP, it is because James has been bought. Not because James has agency as an entrepreneur and somebody who's politically minded and who has a voice of his own. The PPP, this is the logic, the PPP, like the slave masters of old, have bought James. And that is something that needs to be tackled, right? James didn't need the PPP to be an entrepreneur. James didn't need the PPP to be a lawyer. He didn't need the PPP to be a politician. And he clearly is.
He had a tribal business in Melon. He still had that I visited. And that was when he was with the PPP, the PNC, so he didn't need. And that business thrived, interestingly enough, because of Afro-Guyanese economic patronage of it. So that for me, that we need to tackle the idea that anybody who is going over is bought. I made a point that in the 2020 elections, even though I was criticizing both, there was a fiction that I was bought. You were bought as well, interestingly enough. In 2021, when it was that we both were at Culture News, and we left around the same time, there was something floating around that we were paid off at the same time. Well, I don't mind. Sorry, I don't mind being paid off. I still waiting for the money.
So I think in this month,
I need the money. Honestly,
me too. So I think in this month that is coming up, particularly because we're looking at this sort of division, we need to tackle this issue about Afro-Guyanese being bought, and they've also said it with regard to the small parties as well, particularly when. Now, I don't disbelieve that there might not have been some sort of transactional engagement with certain people with Win, but I've spoken to other people who joined the party, and this goes to the issue of the absence of leadership, this vacuum of leadership, in which James has not gone to AFC. He's not stuck with the PNC. You have Tabitha Sarabo Haley. She's not gone to the AFC. She's not charted her own course. And I brought.
You said Kojo McPherson.
No, I saw Kojo on the list.
So there's Kojo McPherson again, and I brought up a friend of mine, Marjorie McCaskey, and she actually called me today, right? Who's on the win list?
She probably saw your program this week.
Somebody told her, right?
We broadcast it.
Yeah, and this is somebody that is beyond reproach for me. This is a brilliant older woman who's very business savvy, etc. She said, "Well,
Yeah, you called her name in the program.
Yeah, somebody called. She called me today, right? And she said, "Well, I was asked by somebody who I have a good relationship with to be on this the regional list because I'm interested in local government and I've always been passionate about local government, and I think it needs to be fixed." But the question is, still, why that particular option? And for me, that when you start interrogating that, you start bringing up questions of why is it that people who purport to represent Afro-Guyanese interests are not attracting these people? And there's a conversation I think that the community has to have when it comes to something James said with regard to, you don't have to look like somebody. Somebody doesn't have to look like you to represent your interests or provide leadership. I agree with that, but I also believe that, and I will put a caveat to say that the PPP at present, in terms of its leadership makeup, even with the historical, that sort of formula we have with this person is PM and this person is more diverse than any party at present. And so the question, yes, there's a question of who looks like you and who doesn't. While I still believe that has to be a choice. The people who look like you should be on the ticket as a viable option. And we do not have that at present. But what we do have is, for me, a diverse ticket that happens to be the PPP that has been historically overwhelmingly supported by Indo-Guyanese. Yeah.
I think if there's anyone in this country at the present time who feel and can understand psychically how African Guyanese like James Bond, yourself, Leonard, Craig, could react to the soup drinking or you've been bought accusation. Ruel Johnson and James Bond.
Yeah.
I have not been paid by the Chronicle. They have not seek to pay me. I have not asked them to pay me. I have no relation with, even distantly, with anything connected to the government or the state. I'm not even on the dog catching board. I get my pension. I live modestly on my pension. I was never into designer things.
Yeah.
And you read the Starbucks News online thing.
Yeah.
And every day for the years, when he's drinking soup now. And I get not a cent. Of course, there is the subterfuge of an Indian businessman who's a PPP supporter that could be passing things on to me. I don't know who he is, and none of them have offered. But look, you don't get him paid from the government. You can drink the soup from
so
me.
The Benz out there is
so
not yours?
I could see...
The Benz outside is not yours?
The Benz is not mine, I'm sure. And if I had money, I wouldn't buy a Benz. So I have accepted a finale. And I've left my previous politics behind because of what I saw in life, what flows from my philosophical mind. Why can't a black man... do that
but you see,
without drinking soup, man? That is so insulting.
But you see, if you check...
And the PNC and the surrogate must stop it.
If you check, when you see like Gita, there are two narratives, always two narratives. The Indian person who goes from the PNC or whoever else to the PVP is going home in an ethnic sense. But the person who is the Afro-Guyanese who's going to PVP is bought. And that has to be tackled. And I think interestingly enough, what is tackling it is the phenomenon in itself, because people are not. It's going to raise the question. Well, okay, are you saying that the forget the attraction, the deflection? Why is it that Bond has not gone to Hughes or Walton and stuff like that? Or why is it that forget James? The smaller people. Why is it that they're not going to these parties? Why is it that when PNC had their campaign launch, there were only about 1,200 people at the Square of the Revolution, which is the iconic space for Afro-Guyanese representation because it's linked back to the 1763 revolution. Why is it that in this environment of supposed inequality and prejudice and oppression, why is it that people are not answering the call to go to those spaces and seek political representation? You had a lady who was interviewed.
Yeah.
Right?
From Region 3.
Region 3, like, I don't have a problem.
She got no problems.
And there was an honest answer.
Very serious.
I don't have a problem. But I just showing here for solidarity and this thing. And it's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to ask, why aren't the others coming? And the others that are going to PPP or they're going to win, why aren't they going to say WPA through APNU that has now sort of fashioned itself not to the away from the party of Walter Rodney, the multi-ethnic, diverse politics of Rodney, to a supposedly rabid Afro representative organization that cusses up Afro-Guyanese people, but has no plan for them when it comes to issues of equity.
But James, sometimes I'm wondering about the bankruptcy of strategy. When James Bond went over, the man sitting in the middle here said on the program this week he support the PPP. Mm-hmm. Leonard, Craig, and the rest of them. Why can't the leadership of African Guyanese say, we regret that has happened. We hope in their new life they will achieve something for their race. Their race should expect them. Mm-hmm. Now that they've gone over, we would ask African Guyanese to keep them in check and to see they do things for African Guyanese. Why they abuse people? It is counterproductive. You gain more respect by saying, well, James, you were with us, you're gone over, you're an African Guyanese, go over and be watching that you will do things for African Guyanese. And look the amount of things you have just said, 17 entrepreneurs in Melanie. Why can't they say that? And James, I think if they say that, they win respect from African Guyanese rather than cussing down African Guyanese. What is wrong with these people, man?
Well, to be very blunt with you is, I tell my former PNC comrades, I says not because I'm with the PPC means that I'm not here for you. Mm-hmm. I said I'm here for you. I have been able, and I must say kudos to His Excellency, kudos to the Vice President.
You can go to them and ask for things for African
I've been able to take my comrades from the PNC to meet with the General Secretary and have their issues addressed. Mm-hmm. You see, one thing you mentioned, you and Ruel were discussing as to one of the answers probably looking for is a question of identity.
Yeah.
Identity goes beyond race. Identity goes beyond creed, class. Identity is where you find yourself in someone else, where your vision, your aspirations, your goals, what you're trying to achieve, you see that mirror. It's a mirror of yourself then, where you want to go. For example, a student, a young Afro-Guyanese, he wants to study. He doesn't have the means to study. The government has made goal available, the goal scholarship. He has the opposition leader saying, a black man saying, oh, the goal is a waste of time. Don't worry, the goal is scholarship. It's a waste of time. I got my master's in London.
PNC parliamentarians have gone.
Yes, they've
benefited from goal.
Yes, Ronald Cox, an MP, right? But you have the opposition leaders, a black person, an Afro-Guyanese saying, forget about goal. Mm-hmm. I'm a young Afro-Guyanese. I want to get a scholarship. I want to do a master's. I want to do a doctorate. I want to do my degree.
Yeah.
It's being offered by an Indian president, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali. Mm-hmm. Where do you think I will identify? Who do you think I will identify with? And that is why they can't understand what is happening now. Yeah. I could tell you right now off the bat, we just got I could show you the list. Mm-hmm. We got about 400 people just from the Annandale, Buxton, Vigilance catchment area. We've been able to mobilize 400 all Afro-Guyanese who we're working with, who we're looking to get to vote PP Civic for the first time in 2025. We brought like 100 and something of them down at Durban Street there, just to show people that you don't have to pay them. I didn't get them a cent. Yeah. But they came down in their numbers, they came down to support the People's Progressive Party Civic. So it is who you identify with. Yeah. I, as a businessman, and most persons, my business started in 2020 during COVID. That was when the business was started. And who do I identify with? Someone who's anti-business, who has never laid out a plan for business, who's antithetical to what I want to achieve and aspire when it comes to business. In all the years, who could I, in 5 years, who have laid out a plan for business, growing a business? SMEs, I think one of the things that the president is saying, look, in 2025, we've done the small business grants. We've done all the grants we've done, but we're going to another level. We're now going to do a development fund for small and medium enterprises, which is zero interest. And then government is looking to partner with you. So now instead of you having to go find an investor, you have the government of Guyana as a co-investor. So who do I identify with those kind of visionary plans? An Afro-Guyanese who says nothing about it, knows nothing about it, is now wish to champion that agenda, or someone from any race who says, this is my vision, this is my plan, I'm here to help you achieve what you want to achieve for yourself and your family. So we at a certain place and time found no identity in the opposition, the Afro-Guyanese leadership. And I can tell you, and there's a lot of people who purport to be Afro-Guyanese. You know who I identify with as a leader? A man in Trinidad, David Muhammad. He's from the Nation of Islam. He's not this rabid, just, because the Nation of Islam, rabid, anti. No, David Muhammad says, and he gave the examples with the UNC and the PNM. He says the PNM is seen as a predominantly African party here every Thursday. And the amount of Afro-Guyanese I see meet with the General Secretary of the party, the Bar Jagdeo, it's unbelievable. They come in singles, they come in groups, and they leave with their answers from problem solved. Because they identify with what the People's Progressive Party is. Not coming every 5 years and promise me something. And that's the policy being practiced all along in Guyana. By all the names you mentioned, I don't see them. So if we don't see you, we can't identify with you. If you don't speak with us, we can't identify with you. If you don't solve our problems, we can't identify with you. And that to me, that's the answer to the question.
No, that's an excellent point. From my perspective, is the best test of a commitment towards diversity and equity of a government has to be a programmatic one. So for me, let's say I was a blonde person, and I personally acknowledge every strand of my ethnic heritage, including Afro-Guyanese, but indigenous, Portuguese, Indian. So let's say I'm taking this sort of diverse view, right? My interest, as you say, you identify with who, beyond this monochromatic view. My interest is the arts. One of the key things that has happened over the past 3 years, as a break this year for assessment, etc., was the Cultural and Creative Industries Grant. That is every year about $30 million, almost $100 million over the 3-year cycle that we have. And I remember specifically, a picture was posted online on one of these news pages about with somebody receiving a tight shot. And remember, I think it was Gordon Mosley's page. Somebody came under the picture and said, "This is only a tight shot. Let's see who else received." And remember, at the ceremony, I specifically asked the photographer, "Take a white shot of everybody and send it to me," because I knew that was coming. And when the person posted that comment, I just posted the picture. And that white shot didn't just show equity, and the program was built in terms of not ethnic equity, but regional geographical equity. So you had about roughly 30 recipients. Each region had to have at least 2 once the program thing was viable. So at least 20 just guaranteed to each region. And then the other 10 usually based on pure merit from wherever. But that, because of who looks after, who's involved in culture and creativity, and this is something in which equity has to be dealt with to do an actual reversal. The recipients were overwhelmingly Afro-Guyanese, to the point where I was concerned that this government program showed a skewed representation in one area, to one ethnic group. And the person who asked the question, when I posted the page, you know what the person said? F off. Because they were so sure that a wider picture would have shown the reverse of what they think, that they were willing to, they had this sort of confirmation bias, but it showed the reverse. Mm-hmm. Now, for me going forward, first of all, there needs to be, because we are in a multi-ethnic society, and because we are dealing, emancipation is an acknowledgement. Emancipation Month celebration is an acknowledgement of the reality of slavery, and of course its reverberations throughout history, including now. And the reality is, we have International Decade of People of African Descent, which speaks to the continuing impacts of slavery, right? Now, for that, there needs to be strong, clear, representative African Guyanese leadership that can and should engage not just the state, but the political space to say, okay, you're competing for our vote as a bloc, as a thing. What are your programs? What have you done? What do you plan to do? What do you claim to have done? And how can you support this claim that you've done? What do you plan to do? And how viable is it? We're intelligent people. We know what to assess. There's no absence of an analytical capacity in the African Guyanese community. And so I keep saying there's leadership and there's purported leadership. I think the leadership has to assert itself and deal with that political space, and then make an assessment who it is. If the Afro-Guyanese community has these concerns, equity, economic growth, empowerment, cultural representation, then you have to say, okay, who is it? Show me your God. Show me your plans are.
Oh, well, yeah. if I may,
yeah.
The fact that in the Afro-Guyanese political space is a competition. There's a competition for the votes. We talk about strict elections here.
Yeah, of course.
It bodes well for Afro-Guyanese.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
In my estimation, it bodes very well for Afro-Guyanese. Mm-hmm. I think Afro-Guyanese leaders have rested too long on their laurels of race.
Yeah.
They've rested too long on the laurels of race.
That's my point. That's exactly my point.
And it shows it's an absolute failure in terms of the name calling, the denigrations, and everything else. I think more Afro-Guyanese, it's a fact, have committed mass exodus from the traditional Afro-Guyanese parties under the leadership of these visionless,
current
visionless leaders. And in my own estimation, the decade it's extended again.
Yeah, the second decade.
I think it gives time for us to reflect on what is true Afro-Guyanese leadership. I think Afro-Guyanese leadership has been focused too much on victimhood. I think for too long we still operating as if we were in slavery. That's why you get things like house slaves and house negroes and what nonsense is that? What bullshit is that? You know. So it's like I said, if they forget that at one time,
it's funny that thing on mute.
Yeah, they forget that the first executive president was Lyndon Forbes Sampson Bonham. The prime minister was Lyndon Forbes Sampson Bonham. 28 years PNC ruled the country. So how come all of a sudden you're going back to slavery? The thing is, we have to. For me, true Afro-Guyanese leadership is leadership that positions Afro-Guyanese in a space in which they could benefit from the state. They could benefit from the resources of the state, in which they're treated fairly and equitably in the country, in which the opportunities afforded every single Guyanese is afforded them. To me, that is the basis of what leadership is. Leadership is not the thing that exposes you to name calling and ridicule. And I'm happy I'm so happy that Dr. Hines got a chance to criticize his own kit and his own kin. I'm so happy, Dr. Hines, that you have the opportunity now to call your own kith and your own kin a house slave and a like bottom African, but you won't do it because you know it was nonsense you're doing all along. People have a right to.
It changed.
You know, Gita Chandan made reference to that. That look, he called me a slave catcher.
Yeah.
His daughter was now joined Win.
Yeah, he hasn't said a word though.
No, what he said is that they're misguided.
No, he has not said she's
directly.
catcher.
No,
he has not called her a like bottom African.
He said the people who
that is my point.
He said the people who have joined Win, the Afro Guyanese who have joined Win, are merely misguided.
He said they lack consciousness or something like that.
Yes, lack consciousness.
And again, so it's Murphy's law.
Look how the thing come back.
That is it.
I mean, they should just move off the scene,
is
man.
And I tell you, when I was so happy.
Yeah.
I was so happy when it happened to him because his mouth is now sewn shut, and the people that follow him in calling us like bottom and Afro and house slave and house Negro, Dr. Hines, who like to use those language, his daughter, his kid and his kin, is a member of
Win,
the Win party that.
And faces emblazoned, sits at every press conference next to a man that I think is.
She did not go to WPA.
Right,
understand? She did not go to Dr. Hines. Take examples of this.
Yeah.
She did not find leadership in Dr. David Hines.
Yeah.
She didn't look to him for guidance and leadership and nothing at all. It's if he didn't exist, and that is the fault in Afro.
But that has to be the fault.
There's a fault in Afro Guyanese leaders who think they own that it's transactional. It's chattel. I reinforce your point. It's okay to reinforce your point. By the way, Mr. Johnson is the person who helped in my poetry and prepared me for the Ghana Prize. I'm the poet because of Ruel Johnson.
No, but he's no, let me say this. He is very disappointingly, right? We were schoolmates, we could tell it. He's very disappointingly abandoned the poetry of politics. And I think Kennedy has said that it is, Johnson said.
Well, politics is poetic, so, it is no contradiction.
No, but you see, I think the best politicians
make good poets.
Should have an abiding interest.
I started back writing.
Good. Should have an abiding interest in poetry.
I started back.
And the best poets really should have an abiding interest in politics.
I started back.
I want to probe the minds of the two of you by pointing to a Caribbean reality. Mm-hmm. And when you point to this Caribbean reality, you're so mad as a Guyanese with this color thing, and who. Do you know there are very, very few? We in Guyana call them Portuguese. But let's refer to them as Europeans in Guyana and the West. Do you know there are very, very few Europeans, I call them Caribbean Portuguese, in the People's National Party in Jamaica? Do you know they elected a white man? Though a white man is the opposition leader in Jamaica?
Yeah.
A white man was a prime minister in Jamaica. Do you know a white man was what we call the Portuguese of St. Lucia?
Yeah.
Do you know a white man is the prime minister of St. Vincent?
Yeah.
Bruce Golden looks more than mulatto.
Yeah. Well, we had a white president.
So how could in Jamaica, those delegates that elect the man, they could not have been saying, he not gonna do anything for black Jamaicans. He's a white. They could not have been saying that to me. And when the delegates voted, I am sure 95% of the delegates were black Jamaicans.
Yeah.
Why is it that the Indian in the presidency can only bat for Indians? Why is it that a black man who become the president can only bat? Why do we believe that it's a philosophical insult to what constitutes the human substance, man? And it's only Guyanese with this nonsense.
Well, you see, that comes out of, and it comes out of our own history of let me call it curated ethno-political division out of the Cold War.
Curated ethno-political position. I like that.
Ethno-political division. But we're grown now. We can't blame, our bad colonial daddies anymore for dividing us in that sort of dichotomy that you just described. And I think we're at a stage right now where a couple of things are happening. One, certainly the demographic shifts, right? It is the demographic shift where there's no ethnic majority anymore. There's no ethnic above 50% anymore.
39 Indians, 29 Afghans.
So
Africans.
anybody who's going to be elected is going to be elected.
Has to have a
based
multiracial appeal, yeah.
Yes. So I think this is happening. So when it is that, and when it is that Granger got elected legitimately in 2015, he got elected on the basis of that evolving demographic. When it is that President Ali got elected in 2020 and legitimately elected, despite what people like Dexter Todd is now saying.
88 people. Oh my! What is wrong with that man?
It was
88 people out of a population that voted of 400, almost 500.
I need that to be interrogated. But it is on the basis of a presumptive multi-ethnic voter base for this particular party. So we'll be evolving. So I won't share your pessimism on where we are. But certainly, if you have one political party, post 2025, you have one political party that is evolving to, and exponentially, to occupy this multiracial space, and you have others that are disregarding it, and are engaging in I believe very cynical. And a very cynical calculus of voting. So when you see Aubrey Norton, plucking Fernandes to be his running mate, and you have Hughes choosing Laura George, that is a very deliberate ethnic calculus that says we've given up on even appealing to the Indian vote per se. And we're strategically saying we will try to consolidate this African base, and then this growing indigenous base, we're going to put this performance of appealing to them. And you saw, for example, the meeting they had in Bad Kickoff, Fernandes' home base, which people said, nah. Yeah. And then you have Wynne, for example, which is sort of dancing between the raindrops, in that there's no selection of a prime minister candidate as yet. But there's this sort of positioning, ironically enough, of Tabitha Sarabu-Haley in this sort of symbolic. We're not going to select a prime minister, but we're going to put this for Afro-Guyanese thing, and then we're going to put Don Hastings Williams.
So I think Sarabu-Haley may be the prime ministerial candidate.
I think there's a bet. I think there's a bet. I think there's a safe bet because
she's just featuring prominently in.
Yeah, but you have Hastings as well, but the calculus the calculus clearly is that whichever these two bases that we want to grasp which is the indigenous and the Afro-Guyanese, we'll dance around with that.
I want to ask both of you about your experience, because I could tell you about mine, but I'm not the guest of how people all over you go by the market. Man, Freddie, you around me, Joe. Freddie, you're gone from us. Freddie, you betray. You said in this program this week, and we thought it was a good discussion between you and Joel Bagwandin, especially Afro young Guyanese intellectuals like you and James, how you react to this accusation of they've been bought over. We reproduced the program. And you said on the program that you support the PPP. I want to ask both of you, when you're in the market and when you're coming out to the supermarket, what's the reaction of African Guyanese to two well-known African faces that,
Yeah.
suppose the people say, man, James, no, James is a madman. People come and say, well, Johnson, what's wrong with you?
I'll be brief, then I'll let James put his extended experience. One,
I know I see a couple of people lick you up and call you Oasis Cafe something. By his be there often.
Yeah, because it's one of the pain music elitist thing. I come from Tocqueville Terrace. As a ghetto youth. James knows my family church event and stuff like that. Range house thing. Never lived in a mansion my entire life. So my working class credentials are solid. They remain solid, unfortunately, probably. But one, there are two sets of people. There are people who are more or less educated, I believe. Well, there were four. But the people who are more or less educated, who have this visceral revulsion of what should be really the logical decision when it comes to politics. Right? So you're smart, you see who has policies, you see who has things, and then you say, okay, fine, I will vote it. There are people who are, and it's not even completely racist. I think it's just a sort of cultish thing that you see they can't come out and say, I support PNC or ASU whatever. So, but they know very well who they will not support. So you have those people. But then you have a growing number, but those people are in the minority. They may, in many ways, they may be most vocal. But they are increasingly in the minority. You have tons of young professionals who, I see, this makes sense. Some of them might be afraid because of the online backlash and stuff, but they are in the increasing majority. Then there's a certain level of, I say, education class and stuff. And then they get the working class people, stuff like that. And I went to wash my car the other day. And I allegedly ended up burning a joint and knocking a beer with these the guys who hang around the car wash. And these are people who are benefiting, as you mentioned, from the very small contracts.
Yeah.
You give a quantified approach to it. I'm going to give maybe a qualified approach. And we're gaffing, and the man said, work there. And they were hungry for more work. They couldn't get enough. They had cleaning contracts, weeding contracts, etc. And these people are comfortable. I remember one of them, it was right by the Royal Mall or whatever. One of them, a young man in 20s.
This is Mandela.
Right off Mandela. There's a little car wash at the back there, right? And the man's like, you know what? My goal is that it's own a building, this building right here.
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
Right? One of these guys who does cleaning and weeding and stuff like that. And for me, that was encouraging is that he saw that as a possibility.
Yeah.
A possibility, not just a goal, not a vision, but a possibility. And these young guys are hungry. The man said, and it's an interesting thing now because both you and I, he's a big man, right? And I realize he's a big man now, right? It's a big man. Wherever walk you go, we there. And I had moved recently. Another man come and cleared off everything and pay them. Those people who many most in the traditional political leadership will have no interaction with other than a paternalistic one or a transactional one who will see them simply as workmen. Nobody going on at the back there and thing. One thing I admire about James, there it is. There's a point in time that if you went down Regent Street or thing, you used to see mega politician James.
Yeah.
Knocking down nose, playing chess, whatever, at the street corner with regular people.
Was cooking in Beirut yesterday. Cook up for them guys yesterday in Beirut.
Yeah, but those work class people, right? the people who are living in mansions and stuff like that, and who are engaging in what I believe to be poverty porn, that they now discover poor people in Guyana.
Yeah.
Right?
Facts.
They don't have a connection to those people. And those people might not be also rich, but for the very first time, I believe those people see on the near horizon the possibility where a young man who is washing car and doing weeding work and stuff like that can say, that big building there, I will own it in the future. I said, I'm supposed to go to Villaggio and want to ban a birthday party. I got a special invite. Right? But you're seeing that. And there are the other things. So, that to answer your question, the reaction from the people who these people purport to represent, on the majority, are not what they're saying.
But before James comes to answer the same question, I want to ask you to watch me, my face, and answer this question.
Yeah.
Who gets a better reception in Guyana? David Hines or James Bond? Look at me and tell me.
James Bond. I could no, you could.
That's a dispassionate, objective answer. But I can answer the question.
No,
I think James Bond gets a better reception.
I challenge David Hines to mobilize more people than me.
No, don't.
I challenge him that. And whoever wants it, I challenge him
I saw the saddest thing
to mobilize single-handedly.
Because he comes across as somebody telling African Guyanese, you must do this, you must do that. And if you don't do this and you don't, you know who you are? You have never come across like that.
No, I saw a very sad video the other day, which I think was a WP meeting.
David
it's just the camera focusing on Kadaki, I think.
Kadaki, Amsterdam.
Who's looking confused. And up to now, and I've keep checking back the video again and again and again. I didn't see the video focus once.
They will never do that.
On anybody or any crowd, because I did.
Because nobody.
Mr. Johnson and Mr. Kissoon, they will never show. Never show. I went in Mabaruma, my hometown, Region 1, and I show the gathering, whether it's children, with their parents or whatever.
Yeah.
I got about 60 people there. 60 individuals.
Yeah.
Any part of this country I go, I would get more people to listen to me than Takuma, David Hines, Kadaki, the entire WPA combined. That's guaranteed. I'm not being arrogant on you, fact. Because people don't identify with them. So the question on my response is, I get most of the vitriol from social media.
Yeah.
Social media. They could call James Bond a month of Sundays on social media. But I live in a real world. And I tell people that's the world I recognize. So when I'm walking down, all I hear is Mr. Bond, Uncle Bond, you know. And then with you, like I coming from the Brazilian restaurant, just had a little snack there. Yeah. A man hailing me up and showing me PP flag. Afro Guyanese, by the way.
Yeah.
So I've not encountered in large. We can't say no more that we win these elections. You gotta come to grips with reality. You didn't win the elections, time to move forward, move on.
Yeah.
You know. So since then I've been getting the house slave thing. I went on a walkabout in 2023 it was, and a guy said, hey, we can't trust he. We can't trust he.
Yeah.
So that's one time there. But I don't experience people coming up to me and telling me, you're a house slave, you're a bottom liquor, you're a sellout.
That's the thing.
I don't get that.
They think that they represent African Guyanese.
I don't get that.
That's what they think.
But what the thing is, I want to make this point very clearly, and I want to look at the camera. That's it there.
Yeah.
After the elections, you have to hold these guys accountable. Okay. You have to hold them accountable. They've misled you. They've lied to you. I just simply, they're talking about being bought. I bought in. I bought into the development of this country. I bought into New Guyana. That's what I bought into. And I sent a message to His Excellency on his Facebook page, a comment. I said, I apologize for not seeing the One Guyana. I had to travel the country to see the One Guyana. Mm-hmm. When I go to Region 6, Regions 4, Region 1, Region 10, Regions 5, Region 3, Region 2, I haven't gone to Mahdi as yet. I haven't gone to Nine as yet. I haven't gone there yet. But these regions that I went to, I see the amount of people of all walks of life actually believing in unity and living unity and unity in Guyana. So after September 1st, 2025, supporters of the opposition, you need to hold them. You have to hold them accountable. And you can't keep those same leaders. You can't. Yeah. They've lied to you too often. You know, and I see it trickling down. When person say what Attorney Law Dexter Todd is saying, it shows when someone and he would have said certain things before 2020.
The exact opposite.
The opposite. He recognized what happened in 2020, called it for what it is then, but now he's saying something else. And I had that experience there, in which they tell you, they say certain things, and you know you want to be a part of the group think, and you feel you have to go with that narrative.
Yeah.
You know, all I'm going to say is you have to hold them accountable. They have misled you. They have not once have you heard the leader of the opposition say, go apply for a piece of land. Not once did he tell you to go and get your local content secretary certificate. Not once. So these guys are not interested in empowering you. Not once have I seen the Rickford Burks and Norman Browns and Mark Benchcops tell you to go and apply for a scholarship. Get your house lot. Better your life. It's as if they want this entire Guyana to develop and grow without you. And that's one of the things you got to look at. Leaders who want to keep you in poverty. Leaders who want to keep you ignorant. Opposition leader says the majority of Guyanese are illiterate. And the UN says no. About 90% of Guyanese are illiterate. Time is up against us.
Yes. James, just quickly and real quickly, this is Emancipation Day, the most important day in the calendar of Guyana, Jamaica, the rest of CARICOM, Brazil, United States, where they brought these slaves and kept them in bondage, something that is the lowest point of civilization. Could you just speak to the Guyanese people briefly on Emancipation Day, your wishes and thoughts for them very briefly? We're over time.
All right, well, I'll go very briefly.
No, you did 10 minutes just now, very briefly.
No.
I counted you, sir.
Okay. I'll be very brief. 2 years ago, it was the celebration of the 200th anniversary celebration of the 1823 rebellion. That was the triggering rebellion that reverberated around the Caribbean. It happened in Guyana and involved people from all along the East Coast, including Anse Grove, where my family originates from. That triggered the Takis revolt, etc. in Jamaica. That eventually, about 11 years later, led to the Emancipation. Things that deal with equity and liberalization of black people, etc., can and have its genesis here. That's what I'm saying going forward.
007 James Bond?
The most famous quote in reggae, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, none but yourself can free your minds. It's a mental thing. You have to decide to move forward for you, your family, and your country. And don't ever let anyone make you feel a victim. You're not a victim. Yeah. You don't suffer from any post-slavery traumatic disorder. Yeah. You could be anything you want to be. Yeah. God bless you.
2 young African men with the whole future in front of them. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the opportunity again.
Yeah. I like the term Afro-descendant. Yeah.
Thanks for being with us. This was our Emancipation Day edition, in which we had 2 young African Guyanese that gave us an intellectual and historical breakdown of the African people in Guyana right at this moment. Have a very, very pleasant weekend, whatever left of Friday evening. We will see you on Monday with Leonard Craig. Thanks for being with us. Catch you later. Bye-bye.